VETchat. I'm Kathryn Bell, CEO of the Webinar Vet, and today I am delighted to be joined by a brand new guest, Gigi Tsontos. Our guest today has worked in many domains, including social services, homeless services, mental health, victims' rights, and nutrition, supporting administrative roles and becoming a clinical social worker licensed in California and Kansas. Having pursued social welfare policy studies at the University of Kansas, Gigi's path led her to a remarkable journey as a Peace Corps volunteer in Mali, West Africa, for 2 years. Upon her return, she completed a Masters of Science in Social Work from Columbia University. Gigi joined Not One More Vet in January 2024 and is currently the Executive Director. She lives in Kansas with her husband and 4 furry children. She sees the world as her home and has travelled extensively. So welcome, Gigi, to VETchat. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. We're really excited.
It's great to have you here. I know mental health and wellbeing in the veterinary world and how to support veterinary teams, it's so important. And thank you so much for your time to discuss this with us today. So I guess to kick us off, tell us a little bit about what Not One More Vet is. How does the organisation help vets? Like anything at all that you've got to share with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Not One More Vet is an organization that is dedicated to transitioning veterinary community members, anybody who works in the field, to ensure they have well-being and mental health resources. So really looking at how we can provide simple inputs to help people build their skills in that arena, learn more about it, etc. And we do this in 3 basic categories. We have resources, supports, and education. So our resource programs we do support grants to individuals for up to $500 to show if they have issues with housing insecurity, transportation insecurity, or food insecurity, and also medical or mental health needs that they need a little support to do. And this is available to anyone in the world who's in the veterinary industry. So you can apply via our website. We also have emergency grants to clinics to help them stay open after a natural disaster, or we've even given some in political unrest. So making sure they can meet the needs of the community if they have a down power and lose their medication, et cetera. And that's up to $5,000 US, also available worldwide. And through that program, we also collaborate with the community and find resources, have community members bring resources in that they've used that are vet specific. So I've met a therapist. They seem to understand the veterinary community. I want to put their name in here. And then we make sure that they're licensed wherever they're supposed to be. And we add that to what's called NAMBI's list. So it's a great place to look. You can look up your area and see what's on there. Obviously, it's based on community input. So we don't have everything everywhere, but we try to keep it as up to date as possible. And then our support programs are really peer support programs. NAMBI started in 2014 when, unfortunately, we had the loss of a veterinarian due to suicide. And a group of vets came together and said, hey, let's have a conversation. And Dr. Nicole MacArthur was like, let's do it via a forum. And so started that with a Facebook forum. And now we have forums that reach over 40,000 people worldwide, both techs, vets, support staff, etc. So that's our initial. And from there, they grew to think, oh, what else could we do? And so we have our Lifeboat program, which is an asynchronous, anonymous online program. So you can get on, you're supported by vets or techs. If you identify as a tech, they're going to match you with techs who are trained and given a lot of resources to support you. And then they're also supported by mental health professionals. This is not a crisis line, so you can't get on and get immediate response, but it's definitely a great place where you can connect and say, I'm going through this. Have you had this kind of experience? And because it's anonymous, you're not, there's no fear of retribution or anything like that. It's, and that's a really growing program that we started a couple of years ago. And then last year we were honored to bring on a program called Veterinary Mental Health Support. And that team does psychoeducation live. So for veterinarians, free one-to-one sessions up to 8 a calendar year. And we have support groups, mostly for veterinarians, 6-week support groups. Some are also for techs, and then they do a lot of skill building there too. So you can reach any of those through our website, but that's kind of the baseline of our peer support. And then education is things like this, getting out there, creating materials, webinars. We have a speakers bureau who's available to connect with webinars or talks of any kind, plus team members internally, both through our VMHS and other programs who do engagement, and volunteers who talk about NOMV across the board. I really like our materials because the way that they look to me is it's heavy material that we synthesize down so that someone in the moment can read them and feel like I get something out of it instead of an academic research paper, but something that you can really use in the moment. So we have something called 10 mental health tip cards. It's a great card to carry around. But on our website, we have lots of other resources, fully shareable. We have a YouTube site that has webinars, overviews, skill building workshops, etc. And so those are a few of the things we do. And we do this fully remotely with hundreds of volunteers and about 9 staff members worldwide.
Wow, incredible. So
Yeah.
literally cover such a broad spectrum of everything.
Yeah, we try. We also try to keep it within our mission. So, really focusing on what we can do on the prevention side, and then those intervention pieces with peer support. So,
Yeah, fantastic. And if
yeah.
anybody wanted to get involved, is the easiest way to sort of do that? Is it just to kind of go find the website and you can kind of subscribe, set up an account, that sort of way?
Sure. So our website is nomv.org, and you can go there to get our newsletter, to look at any of our socials, get to our YouTube page, but also you can info@nomv.org and info@nomv.org to get any of our programming. But our support grants, there's a link on there to apply to the grants. There's a place to go ask for VMHS support. So in the website is a great place to look for stuff. We also have volunteer opportunities, and there's a page on there that allows you access to that. And right now we're
Mhm.
running what's called Race Around the World. It's an online worldwide get moving during the month of May to support awareness in the industry, as well as a bit of a fundraiser for NAMVI as well.
Mhm. Fantastic. Sounds brilliant. And I touched upon it a little bit in the introduction, but tell us a little bit about what your role is and how have your sort of previous experiences in other fields changed how you approach your role?
Absolutely. So I'm the executive director. So I am a support to the whole team, both volunteers and staff who do most of the heavy lifting, I have to say.
Mhm.
But my role is to make connections, help think about strategy, look at where we're going, make sure we're mission driven, etc. And I've been working in NGOs for a long time. So I think that strength came in of organizational development. Plus, I'm a
Mhm.
mental health professional. So bringing that lens of the social work into the role has allowed us to look at our activities, what we're doing, and making sure they're best practices and things like that. The team before, all of the team members have done an amazing job and are just very stellar at their jobs. And so been very easy to come in and work in that lens, having experienced different populations, not being a vet or a tech, but having worked with them and with my own animals and stuff means that I
Mhm.
have a different lens as well, which is both, challenging and a strength because I have a learning curve for the community, but I've
Mm.
spent some time meeting with the different veterinarians, techs, support staff, and just learning a bit more. And
Mhm.
so I think that's what's been helpful is kind of that new lens and bringing in the ideas from other spaces into this realm and helping implement them.
Yeah, brilliant. It's always great to get fresh perspective, isn't it, with things
Mm,
as well?
absolutely.
Sure. And what was it that drew you to kind of like the veterinary world in particular?
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up in the middle of the US, lived all over, but vets have been part of our lives since I was little, both with large animals as well as my own furry four-leggeds. And so understanding the issues in the community, the challenges and stuff was really something that pulled me in. I think it's really important that we support these kind of communities, making sure that they have the resources they need. And just my affinity to animals, I feel like helping those who help them is super important. So seeing a position like this where I could use my other skills and bring it into this community felt like a natural fit.
Mhm. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And obviously, you're relatively new into the role, but do you feel that most veterinary practices they have adequate mental health support for their teams?
I think we could always do better. So there have been some studies that show that there's growth in the area. So access to certain resources are there. I don't think it's over. I think we need to keep working on it. Organizations like the Webinar VETchat, all of this is helpful because it's access, right? Giving
Mhm.
resources to the community. I think making it a priority in how you develop your business is key. So thinking about, what work hours make sense, how to support your team in communication skills, what kinds of things can you do to make sure that your team members have the support they need, or you're there to listen, or you get the support you need yourself, right? And so
Yeah.
to me, I think we could do a lot better, but I do see that we're opening the conversation much more. My understanding is that about a decade ago, it was less spoken about, which I think is something worldwide we're really dealing with, right? Is opening up the communication about mental health and well-being and how important
Yeah.
it is in your life. So we're seeing that trend, but I'd love to see more. And what I didn't share is we have a program called Clear Blueprint, which is a clinic assessment and certification program that can be
Mhm.
done anywhere. And what it does is help you see your clinic's culture and what's going on there, to see if there's places you could input better well-being strategies, and then we work with you to give you resources to do that or to problem solve in that arena. And I just think that's a great place to start, to see where your clinic is. It works for
Mhm.
hospitals, clinics, etc. And so it's definitely a program that I think can really help that access in clinic settings.
Okay, fantastic. And is all the information for that available on your website as well?
Absolutely. Clear Blueprint, nomv.org, Clear Blueprint. So
Amazing. Thank you.
yeah,
I'll have to have a little
sure.
look at that. I've not heard about that.
Yeah,
Um,
please.
yeah. And I was actually looking on your website and I saw moral distress was mentioned quite a few times as something that colleagues, are facing. Like on average, I think it said 7 times per week that they're being impacted by this. Do you have some tips or any sort of coping skills that you would recommend for something like this?
Yeah. So this is one of those arenas that's very challenging when veterinarians in any arena, whether it's equine, small animal, large animal, etc., they're dealing with so many different variations on a daily basis. So you can
Hmm.
start with that kitten in the morning and then end up talking about euthanasia with someone the next appointment. You can be working with a horse out in a public arena or field or something. You can be dealing with high stress situations from the clients, the owners of the pet guardians, the animal
Yeah.
guardians. And so you have a lot of ethical conflict that happens on a daily basis. Like, are we doing a euthanasia for financial reasons versus medical reasons, etc.? And all of this impacts you on a daily basis. So one of the biggest things that we recommend is talking, having your colleagues, having a moment to debrief when something is going on, taking breaks throughout the day, thinking about your mental health as a priority as you wake
Mm.
up and get ready for your day, having that clinic setting where it's okay to talk about the things that are on your mind so you get that support. That's key.
Yeah.
Having your life outside of the workplace, making sure you're connected to others, get some help, reach out for Lifeboat, reach out to VMHS, but also therapy is a wonderful thing for people. Getting someone to talk to who's a professional can
Mhm.
really be helpful in building those skills and seeing what you need for yourself. But as a clinic, as a team member, as a colleague of someone, I think checking in with people, making that space for emotion so that people can feel comfortable talking about it and feel supported and heard and understood is really key, I think, in working with moral distress.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess as well, like, is do you see like a kind of trend of sort of signs that may indicate that people are struggling in practice?
For sure, for sure. So you can see some normal ones that we all maybe have on a daily basis get more exacerbated. So someone whose mood changes more than you've seen in the past,
Hmm.
someone who withdraws a bit more. People actually sometimes say things that we may not miss, like, "I'm just not this just isn't for me anymore," or
Mm.
I'm done, things like that. Now that's, usually people are getting more further closer to depression or anxiety at that point. But if you see people's change in behavior, that's when you want to check in. In fact,
Yeah.
I think you should check in before you see any of those. Today was
Mm.
a hard day. How are you doing? Is there anything that we can do to help each other? Those kinds of things. But those
Yeah.
signs, they're sometimes extreme. Someone has an extreme mood change. They feel lethargic. They have trouble making decisions. Some of those are the basic things that happen. But to me, my theory is let's just check in, make it commonplace, make it genuine and something that is just the practice that you take on so that when someone is in need, they know that it's
Mhm.
that that you're there and that the practice cares.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great advice. So if you're kind of like a colleague or a manager and you are noticing, somebody withdraw or, you have your suspicions that they are starting to struggle, would that be your advice? Just really make sure that you've got time to check in and that you're getting a feel for if they're okay.
I would definitely check in. Or if it doesn't feel like you're the right person, maybe there's somebody that they're close to that you can ask to check in. I think checking in and just asking how people are doing, or even saying, "Hey, you don't seem like yourself. Is there anything we can do, or can I help, or what's going on? Is there something that you need that we're not providing?" Or even just, yeah, today I saw how tough today was. I'd love to
Yeah,
just see how you're doing, those kinds of things. So the
yeah,
first thing that we can do, our advice is always, it's always okay to ask questions. It's always okay to
mm,
check in, right? So even if you're wrong and it's just a bad moment, there's a bad moment for a reason, check in. Even if
yeah,
things seem fine, check in, hey, how are things going? Because those
mm,
moods can be both ways, right? I'm sure you've heard and your audience has heard sometimes will be like, that person, there was just no sign, and they're always happy and
mm,
they're always, and so it's okay to say, hey, how are things going? You seem great, but I just want to make sure, is there anything that you need? Or, hey, you seem distressed. Is there anything that I can do? Or hey, there's resources. Having the resources available too, just around the space can be great. Just a little sign of like, hey, here's some resources from Nambi, or here's the webinar vets. They have some great information on their site about XYZ, those kinds of
mhm.
things.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, brilliant. And I guess on the flip side of that, what would you say to any sort of veterinary teams who are listening who are actually like themselves struggling with their mental health issues?
Mhm, mhm. You're not alone. Reach out. If you have someone close to you, let them know that you're struggling. It's okay to ask for help. So that's first. If you don't feel comfortable with that, or if you want something anonymous, we have Lifeboat. We also have our VMHS program, therapy. But I always say start where it's most comfortable for you. It's okay to ask for help. And I think we all think we should be veterinarian, tech, social worker, doctor, any profession. We all at times feel like we need to be strong and cope and everything, but leaning on other people, taking care of yourself is key. And doing that as early as you can really help. And take advantage of all the resources.
Yeah, for sure. Brilliant. And just speaking of the resources, just give us a little reminder. What are some of the things that we can find on your website?
Absolutely. So for individuals, we have our support grants, our peer support programs through veterinary mental health support and Lifeboat. We have our
Mhm.
Clear Blueprint clinic assessment and certification for those clinics to learn more about their teams. We have those emergency grants for clinics. We
Mhm.
also have lots of education materials, kind of synthesized materials. We have, oh, and I forgot to mention, we have some materials in 7 languages besides English. So they're not all inclusive, but we're getting there. So if you want to volunteer and help us with that, wonderful too. But everything can be found there. Also, we have a link to the US and Canada suicide prevention number, as well as a link to international numbers. So you can find something in your community for a crisis situation.
Fantastic. We'll when we release this episode, of course, we'll link everything to it as well. So
Thank you.
if people, need to find any links, then they'll be in the
Thank you.
notes with the
Thank you.
podcast, which would be great.
Yes.
And then we're just running out of time, but just to finish off, what are the plans for the future to enable you to keep supporting all these veterinary teams and continue with all the great work that you're doing?
Absolutely. Well, we're trying to maintain our partnership so that we can do so. Almost everything we do is free to the public or to the veterinary community. So we're always looking to partner to keep that going. Our goals right now are to keep these programs really moving and make them more and more accessible across the world. So doing things in different time zones, things like that are things that we're working on with partnerships through different organizations. We want to sustain these programs and really make sure that they meet the needs of the community. So we're really looking at the impact that they make so that we can show these are great assets to the community. How does Lifeboat help prevent depression, suicide, etc.? How does VMHS support the individual? How do those relationship buildings impact someone? Does it change the transition of their career, etc.? So our goal is to be here hopefully until we're not needed, but we know this is an ongoing issue, which the other part of it is us keeping up with what's going on in the community at this present time. So we know worldwide there's a lot of different political things happening, and so we're just really trying to make sure that we meet those needs of individuals as we can. So if
Yeah.
you have ideas, we're also open to those as well.
Fantastic. Oh, well, that's a lovely place to finish, Gigi. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us
Yes.
today.
Thank
It's
you
been
so
great to
much.
hear about all the great stuff that you're getting up to. And yeah, as I said just before, we'll make sure that we put everything that you've mentioned on our platform. So we'll put it in our wellbeing hub as well so that people can find it nice and
Wonderful.
simply.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathryn. Thank you, VetChat. Really excited to be here. And thank you so much for sharing our message.
Pleasure. I'll enjoy the rest of your day.
You
Thanks
too.
again. Take care.